A very good day to everyone. My name is Sukrit Dhingra and the topic for today is History of Gambling Laws and Indian Overview. This presentation was co-created by me and Zaid Kausar, and in this we'll discuss briefly the origin of gambling in the world, and then we'll focus on the Indian perspective, the history of gambling pertaining to India. So without much further ado, let's begin. Now the thing is that we live in a very modernized world. We have access to casinos, we have access to private gaming parties, we have access to so many millions of sites that have online gaming, online betting happening in them, that it becomes kind of difficult for us to imagine that gambling could exist in the past too, in a past that was not modernized, in the ancient past. But the thing is that we have various references that gambling did exist even in the remotest past, that humans have gambled throughout ages and cultures. Now, when we talk about physical facts, the hard archaeological evidence, the oldest archaeological discovery related to gambling dates back to 2300 BC China. Now, it was found out that during that period, people used to bet or gamble using tiles or keno slips, and the revenue generated was used to fund the state. Yeah, so let's focus on the Indian history of gambling. So, references to gambling, like pertaining to Indian history, can be dated back to 2000 BC in the period of Ramayana, where it was found that the kings, the nobles, they used to play games of high stakes using dice and gaming board. And the rolling dice that they used was made from the nuts of Vivekta tree. Now it is worth noting here that Brahman gives a very neutral perspective to gambling. It does not ruminate about the sociological aspects of gambling, like how does it impact a man, how does it impact the society. But that is done yugas down the line in Mahabharata, where the game of Chaucer or Dyut Krida as you called it was a very core part of the story. Mahabharata was also the first text that dealt with the immorality and the corruptness that is concomitant to gambling. It is worth noting that Dharmraj Yudhishthir himself, Dharmraj Yudhishthir was the archetype of all virtues that are present in society. He was the archetype of all good that is in man, and he too fell in trap of the world of gambling. Yudhishthir was quoted saying to Shakuni that gambling is deceitful, sinful, and there is no Kshatriya prowess in it. But still, he fell into the trap of gambling, which is that you cannot stop when you're winning and you cannot stop when you're losing. So basically, Dharmraj Yudhishthir, he he put himself, his brothers, and their common wife to serfdom with his stiff brother, that is Duryodhan. Moving on to the medieval India, so our story begins from the 14th century, the infamous story of Rani Padmavati. Now we have seen the movies, so but there are a lot because it is a folklore. There are a lot of various takes on it. But when you talk about the original folklore, like on which every edition is based, on which every nuance is based, it was by Malik Muhammad Jayasi. So it's a very interesting story. So this story takes place in the state of Chittor and it is ruled by Rana Ratan Singh. And he was a man who was into the leisures of life. So he used to gamble a lot, he used to bet a lot. So what he used to bet was like what the actual practice was during that time was betting on natural occurrences, like the things that happen in nature, environment. And he had this one courtier in his court. He was called Raghav Chetan. So what happened was whenever the king used to bet with Raghav Chetan, he used to lose. And he was very perplexed by it. So one of his courtier told him that Raghav Chetan was actually a tantric and he uses black magic, his black magical prowess to actually change the environment, the close environment, and modify the natural occurrences to his will. So Rana Ratan Singh got infuriated, he got enraged, and he sent him off to exile. And that is how the story begins, that he goes to the Delhi Sultanate, he goes to Alauddin Khilji, and then the entire pursuit of like getting his hands on Rani Padmavati started. Now when we talk about the 15th century, gambling was very prevalent all over the country. Like there were various gambling houses that were present. And it formed a huge part of the revenue, like the revenue that gambling houses generated, they were reserved by the king. Also, it was during this time that new ways to gamble were introduced. Like one of the key things that was introduced was annual battles. So what happened in that was you get one person and his animal and another person and his animal, and the animals used to fight. And whichever animal was the last remaining, who was the last standing animal, he won. So that is a way that was introduced during the 15th century. So, talking about modern India, the Britishers came, they conquered India, they set up the EIC, and we know how the song and dance goes. But when they came, they made an observation that betting was very prevalent in India. It was like percolated deep in all walks of society. And they realized that India's love for gambling, and they also brought their own novel ways of betting, which was betting on horse races, betting on the games of cricket, etc. And these are the legacies that they leave behind. We have horse races like clubs that are into only betting, and the betting on cricket is like very prevalent till now. Also, the word satta, it was first used by the in the 17th century when bets were placed on prices of gold, cotton, as well as opium. So when all this was implemented, all these new ways of betting came about, a very unique problem beset the Britishers. They realized that Indians did love gambling, but that love was getting a lot toxic. What happened was Britishers realized that gambling in India was getting out of control because people could not pay revenues to the Britishers. They were losing out of revenue. The people, like whatever money they made by either trading their agricultural produce or cattle rearing, they used to spend it all in betting. So the Britishers had to come up with a solution. They introduced laws to curb the practice of gambling. Now, this series of new legislation started with 1856. In 1856, the Britishers introduced anti-gambling legislation for Bombay, Calcutta, and Delhi. Now, much later on, the Britishers outlawed gambling in all its forms through the Public Gambling Act of 1867. Now, this act, which is still prevalent today, was based on UK Parliament's Gaming Act of 1845 and Betting Act of 1853. Now, other than these series of legislations that curb the practice of gambling, uh, an aberration of a law was introduced in Bombay. It was called the Bombay Gaming Act of 1887, which went on further to be known as the Maharashtra Prevention of Gambling Act. Now, there is one thing that has to be noted over here, that there was a practice of rain betting in India that was very common. So people basically used to bet and wager on whether it will rain or not, and they used to put their money on it. Now, this practice was prevalent in Calcutta and Bombay mostly, but it was happening all over India, but these were the hotspots for that practice. So what Bombay Gaming Act did was it did not prescribe betting as an illegal activity, and it also allowed rain betting, which was like it rain betting was the cause for a loss of livelihoods, a lot of loss for livelihoods for the residents of Bombay. But later on, it was amended. It made rain betting illegal. It made wagering in general illegal. And now that is the law that is still in force today. One more interesting take on these legislations is that, as we all know, that the British government, the British Crown, used to differentiate between its Indian subjects and the British subjects. So all these legislations that we talked about, they were only applicable on Indian subjects and not on British subjects. British subjects they were allowed to bet or wage to their heart's will. There was no stopping them by these legislations. So moving on to in the modern India and history of gambling. So there was national fervor. We were in the midst of the national movement. We wanted to be a sovereign nation. We wanted to draft our own constitution. So before the Objectives Revolution, before the Congress Expert Committee, there came the Nehru Report in 1928. In 1928. So the gambling found a place in this report, and it basically said that gambling and betting should be a provincial or state subject, that the states should have power to regulate gambling, and if there is a central legislation on the subject, then the state must respect it. So this was the first case of gambling that we saw in the modern India. So after all this, the Cabinet Mission Plan was approved. We had our own drafting committee. So when the drafting committee was drafting the constitution, because that's what they were made to do, what happened was the issue of gambling again came up. So there was a lot of hue and cry about it. like there were two stances. That one side of people, they said that we should not include gambling, and another said that we should include gambling in the constitution. So the debate was whether do we put in the constitution the issue of gambling or not. So the people who were against it, the people who opposed it, said that when we put something as gambling in the constitution, it will undermine or else destroy the sanctity of this holy document. But Dr. Ambedkar, like in his far-sightedness, he said that no, when we put in gambling in constitution, it does not mean that the union says, that the government says that gambling is right and you should pursue it. No. But putting gambling in constitution, it will give the states the power to prohibit, to regulate or permit gambling accordingly. He said that if we omit putting gambling in the constitution, what that will do is that it will render states powerless to ever regulate that subject. So that entire industry will be running carte blanche, and there will be anarchy in it, and there will be no regulation in it. And it was because of Baba Sahib's far-sightedness that gambling actually made entry number 34 in the 7th schedule of Indian Constitution. That was the history of gambling legislation in India. When we talk about the current scenario, the present, that was formed by these historical ventures, at the present moment, we have 23 state legislations that deal with gambling and betting activities in the states. Also, in a modern take to gambling, there are two specific acts that deal with online gambling in India. And they are the Sikkim Online Gambling Regulation Act of 2008 and the Nagaland Prohibition of Gambling and Promotion and Regulation of Online Games or Skill Act 2015. Thank you. Have a nice day.